A glorious day here in Palm Springs, as you can see behind me. Beautiful mountains, beautiful skies, and a beautiful neighborhood. This neighborhood is called the Movie Colony, as you can see behind me from that street sign. And a glorious enclave where lots of celebrities bought homes and lived, or this was their getaway home. Palm Springs was a very popular getaway place for people like Sinatra and Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. And Lucy figures into this story a little bit. Today's story is about an actress named Joan Davis.
I married Joan. What a girl, what a world, what a life. Oh, I married Joan. What a mind, loving, blind, what a wife to do. Easy and gay, all day she keeps my heart laughing. Never know where the rain has flown. Too easy, Lord. Can deny that's why I married Joan.
Now, what prompted me to do this vlog is an item that recently ran in on a blog, show business blog called Crazy Days and Nights. And this is what it was. It said, this is supposed to be a mystery item, a blind item, an old Hollywood item that is actually about TV, a TV show that lifted entire episodes from an iconic show, then ran them as their own, right down to the physical comedy scenes performed by the star. The problem was that the rip-off show had an actress that no one could stand who cast her daughter as her sister. The show's writers wondered out loud whether to show up to work each day or commit suicide. And that was Joan Davis and her daughter Beverly Wills. Now, Joan Davis in Hollywood had some success in B movies. She was in Hold That Ghost with Abbott and Costello and Show Business with Eddie Cantor. With the success of I Love Lucy, NBC wanted the show, so they cast Joan Davis as I Married Joan, as sort of the manic wife, and Jim Backus was her husband on the show. Now, the show was very successful at the beginning, but it faded pretty quickly, and Joan had some health issues, so 2 years after it began, the show was canceled. Now, Beverly, the daughter, Beverly Wills, had been married 3 times. She had 2 sons with one of her husbands, Alan Grossman. They divorced in '54. She was married to Martin Colbert at the time. Now, this is weird because Beverly had parts in Son of Flubber. She was in Some Like It Hot. And after the show I Married Joan was canceled, they did a pilot called The Joan Davis Show. And Beverly played the daughter this time instead of the sister. But actually that show never ran. It was, they did the pilot, but the pilot was not snapped up. Now, Joan lived in this house, and Joan had a heart attack in this house on May 22nd, 1961. She was 53 years old. It was a kind of interesting show-busy week because Gary Cooper died within a couple of days of Joan. Elizabeth Taylor was sick in the hospital at the time, and so was Jeff Chandler. So there was a lot of celebrity buzz about health and illness at that point. But Joan had her heart attack here on May 22nd. 5 hours later, she was pronounced dead at a hospital. Now, Joan supposedly died without a will. But that's where this gets really interesting. So when Joan died, some say she was without a will when she died. Well, things got really interesting because Cy, Joan's ex-husband of 14 years and father of daughter Beverly, produced a will. And this particular will said that he was the sole beneficiary of Joan Davis's estate. Now, while this was going on, the NBC pulled all the reruns of I Married Joan because of the residuals and some sort of, questionability about where the money's going to go. So it was easier to them just to pull the reruns while this litigation was going on. So in the meantime, Cy's supposed to be the sole beneficiary according to this will. Well, the daughter Beverly produces this envelope in pencil in Joan Davis's handwriting. On the front of it, it said, I, Joan Davis, leave to Lorena Watts, who was her housekeeper, $10,000. To my mother, $10,000. To my father, $10,000. And the rest to my daughter and grandson, providing it does not go to my son-in-law, Alan Grossman. So that's really interesting. Now, Beverly was married 3 times. Grossman was her second husband. And she also had 2 children with Grossman. And the kids were 4 years old and 7 years old, Larry and Guy. So the judge ruled that an invalid document because it wasn't witnessed by anyone and it wasn't dated. And since Beverly had already been married another time after that, it was just of questionable date and time. And the judge, well, there was a court battle, and Beverly did take Cy to court, and he was awarded her house, the one we just saw in Palm Springs. Cy was given one of her cars, one of her business interests, whatever that means, and an undisclosed amount of cash. So basically, he made out pretty well with that, and Beverly got the rest of it. And Beverly was living in a house where we're going now with her third husband, with her two children from her second husband, Grossman, and Joan Davis's mother, Nina. And that's where we're heading right now. All right, heading towards the mountains. Palm Springs Fire Station on the right. That's relevant. And you'll hear why in just a second. Although it's hotter than hell out here, I think that living here would be very easy. And our final destination is on the left. Not only our final destination, there it is. When the lawsuit was finished, Beverly released a statement after this drawn-out fight with her father over her mother's money. She said that, I still love my father. I just want this all to go away. I'm glad it's finally over. And Beverly moved into this house. It looks like it's the original house. It looks like it's not very well kept either. Some termite damage you can see there. So, cut to October 24th, 1963. And it was 11:45 p.m. and next door neighbor, probably behind that hedge, Mrs. Schulman, smelled smoke. Didn't think anything of it. Now, a couple of hours later, or a little after 1 a.m., so it'd make it about an hour and a half later, she was woken up by a flash and the sound of an explosion of these windows being blown out because there was a fire in this house. The heat and the flames caused the windows to actually explode outwards. So when the fire department finally came and extinguished it, they found 4 bodies in this house. The bodies of Beverly, her mother, or I should say her grandmother, Nina, and her 2 sons, Larry and Guy. Apparently, she was in bed with one of the kids, and what they were able to establish or sort of figure is that the mother, the grandmother, and one of the other grandsons came running in when they smelled the smoke, and they all succumbed to inhalation, and ultimately they burned from their injuries. So all 4 of them were killed here 2 years after Joan Davis died. Now, Beverly and the mother, Nina, or Joan's mother, Beverly's grandmother, they're buried at Desert Memorial Park here near Palm Springs. Joan is buried at the Catholic Cemetery in Culver City that I told you about earlier. So we're in the Mausoleum church chapel thing at Holy Cross in Culver City. It was open today. It is open today. It was closed last week. So there are some interesting folks buried in here. There's Robert Keith, who was married to Peg Entwistle when she jumped off the Hollywood sign in 23 or 32. Over here is the Scarecrow from The Wizard of Oz, Ray Bolger. Tin Man's over here too in the other part of the cemetery. But we're going over to the very front. And next to Mario Lanza is Joan Davis. So we crossed over to the other side of the Culver City to Hillside Cemetery. This is the Jewish cemetery. This is where L. Jolson and Jack Benny and Michael Landon and Vic Morrow, Sherwood Schwartz, and Guy and Larry Grossman, Joan Davis's grandchildren. So Joan Davis is at the Catholic cemetery on Slauson, not far from here, less than a mile. Joan Davis's mother and daughter are in Palm Desert, and the two grandchildren who died in the fire are here at the Jewish cemetery in Culver City. It's interesting scattering of people. Want to see the mailbox? Thanks for watching. Thanks to all my sponsors on Patreon. I appreciate it. Thanks for letting me continue to do this cool work.